Jordan, what's good?
What's up, Sam? Well,
we out here. Another day, another week, another music business podcast episode.
Yep. Who we got today, man?
Very excited. Today, we actually have my business partner, the co-founder and creative director at NOX Media. Matt is a very experienced videographer and content director. Creative director. He has experience working on big commercial projects for a lot of big brands, Budweiser, list goes on. He used to work at VaynerMedia. He was a senior videographer there. While there, did a lot of these big commercial productions, but was also one of the videographers in the Vayner talent team, which was largely tasked with replicating what Gary Vaynerchuk has done with his personal brand for other talent, entrepreneurs, musicians. We left Vayner about a year and a half ago to start NOX. And since then, I've really just been going all in on really trying to help artists blow up online, quickly grow audiences by strategically creating and distributing content. So I think in today's episode, it's really exciting to hear Matt talk about how he's grown as a creative, some of the different ways that you guys as listeners can think about content as it pertains to your career, your client's career when in blowing up online, different types of content to create, how to streamline the process, what makes content engaging, how to make sure it all ladders back to an aesthetic style. We even get to dive into some of the elements of our culture. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think one thing that we haven't gone in a lot. I mean, obviously we've gone into digital content, digital strategy at this point a good amount, but not necessarily how to create the content itself. So in this episode, I try to get into Matt's brain just about how he, what are the type of things he's thinking about when he takes on a project and how does he create that content for the artist in a way that seems genuine and pure to the artist brand. So I get excited to get into that because, that's something that I directly can benefit from me and my clients. And like I said, we've gone into digital strategy, over and over again. And I've, learned a lot from that, from our guests, from you, but him going a little bit more on the creative side is kind of like the other side of the coin in a real way. So
for sure. No, I think it was really cool to have him talk about it, and definitely do think like content is king for sure.
Right.
With that said too, I think obviously NOX, we work with a lot of different artists, managers, labels. I mean, if anybody that's listening here wants to talk about content strategy, whether it's us just sharing our different kind of perspectives and ways in which you can approach it on your own personal level or whatever may be, potentially collaborating, don't ever hesitate to reach out. You can just either reach out to me directly, sam@wearenox.co. You can shoot Matt an email, matt@wearenox.co, or even better, just go to the wearenox.co website and submit the form and we'll get your message. Before we jump into the episode, also super grateful for Bands in Town, incredible app for helping promote your different shows. Really awesome place. Super grateful we're able to record our podcast here. If you guys haven't already, definitely a great way to help market your shows and get more people to turn out. I know Jordan really actively uses it across all his different artists.
I do. But it's also great if you're a listener trying to find new shows. They have a great recommendation engine that actually helps a lot of people find new musicians to go to in their area. So super into Bands in Town, big fan of Bands in Town, have been since way before this podcast. And, I'm very excited that we get to record out of their studio.
Yeah, for sure. Well, without any further ado, let's get into it. Mr. Matthew Ligotti. Mr. Matthew Ligotti, how are we feeling today, good sir?
Feeling good.
So this is very excited to have you on. I know we've never met in person before. No, honestly, very excited to have you on. It's been a pleasure and an honor getting to collaborate with you. So excited to peel back the curtains, hear the secrets to your magic. So starting with, I think one thing that's really interesting about your career is that you've been able to go from this very kind of commercial space, doing a lot of high-end commercial production, into now this like very kind of like run and gun, very efficient, lean production for a lot of these artists. Can you talk a little bit about just kind of your journey as a videographer and how you've evolved over time?
Yeah, totally. So I actually started in like music videos. That was the
Papoose, right?
The first Papoose.
You did a Papoose music video?
Yeah, The Bank, I think it was called.
Yo, that's hard, bro.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Dude. And that was damn, you did your research on this shit.
I just remember.
How long ago was that? Was that like peak Papoose?
No, that was like after peak. And then like he was like in the curve where he's like come back up. So I think he's made a good comeback.
Brought him back to peak.
Exactly.
Nice touch, baby.
Yeah. Go check it out. I think it's called The Bank. So that was one of my first like big artists that I worked with. I worked with a lot of like small time New York City like YouTubers who just like were trying to do their covers, and a couple of them took off. And like once I started seeing, 100,000 views, 200,000 views, I was like, shit, this is like YouTube is like becoming a thing, and that's what sparked my drive into like music videos.
For sure.
What were you shooting with back then? Did you have your own camera, or you were renting cameras and stuff?
I bought this crappy Canon DSLR, and then like saved up money. I was charging like $250 for a video.
That's cheap as hell, bro.
Yeah, I mean it was cash, but
Yeah.
And then
Papoose is like $250. Shit.
No, Papoose paid a little bit. He paid a little bit more because he wanted this like crazy content. But
yeah.
And then you got into the commercial side, right? At Vayner, you started working with Gary V.
Yep. So I was in college. I was still doing music videos on the side, making some like cash while living in Manhattan, and I was studying graphic design, and I didn't really know like if graphic design was what I wanted to do. And like music videos just like were paying the bills. So in my junior year, I applied for a couple different internships. So I applied for design internships, and I applied for like video internships. One of them was VaynerMedia, obviously, Sam knows. And I started that summer of junior year in college. And
how long ago was that?
That was probably like 2014.
Where?
Yeah. Started as an intern there. That company Vayner was like growing rapidly. It was like 300-400 people at the time. Now it's like double. And just like grinding my ass off. Like I would like stay late. I would like commute from Staten Island. It was a bit of a grind, but I think it all came to be worth it.
And then NOX.
Yeah, and then NOX. So Vayner
He's like,
4
don't
years.
forget about me, bro.
Yeah. So Vayner for 4 years. That was a ton of learning in social media, ton of learning videography. I mean, obviously I was studying design, so I didn't really know like much about it, but I self-taught myself a lot. And like obviously doing 100 music videos, 100 little YouTube covers later, it's like you just learn as you go.
How big was the team at Vayner that you were working with, like every day?
The video team at the time?
Yeah.
It was like 3 or 4 people.
Oh, it wasn't that big.
Now it's like 70.
Wow.
Within like 2 years.
Wow.
So that was pretty dope.
Were you doing video content for Gary himself?
So I was doing all branded content. So Budweiser, Pepsi, GE, all these like big ass brands that I barely even like would be able to touch if I worked at another agency.
Right.
It was like Vayner at that time, as they were growing, is like I was able to just
leveling up, man.
Yeah, leveling up as leveling like a 19, 20-year-old like intern. I was like editing stuff for Sour Patch Kids, which is just like
that's crazy.
Insane. I mean, it's insane, and they trusted me, so I was like, shit, let's do it. But
so could you talk about how you evolved to really start? I mean, I know through Vayner Talent, we're working with one musician with Black Coffee, and then with NOX. I mean, it's been tons of different musicians. Can you talk a little bit about some of the differences that you've learned as to how you approach content for big brands versus for artists?
Totally. The budgets are obviously massive when it comes to big brands. They're a lot bigger than music clients. They just have money to just spend on this kind of marketing. But also shows, because a lot of the times you're renting larger cameras, you have a crew, you have to get everyone released, you have to get locations released. It's a lot more legit when it comes to just shooting like a YouTube kind of video. You have a lot of more red tape when it comes to legality and what you can do, can't do. You got to be careful when it comes to like logos, copyrights. You can't use any music that isn't owned by you or licensed by you. And then obviously the budgets are a lot bigger. So you have more room to work with bigger cameras. You have multiple days on location. You can afford to hire actors and actresses, which is...
When you're working with the artist, when do you feel it's valuable to try and aspire to that level of like top of the line production versus when is it just not even worth it and you're just better off? I mean, it just doesn't make financial sense to shoot for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting now with TikTok, especially like the way that artists are just going viral based on like a trend. So I think most importantly, other than like the level of production and how big the budget is, I think it's like the concept. So what is the concept of your video? What are you trying to like achieve? What's the goal of the artist? Who are you trying to hit? And then like reverse engineering like we do at NOX. And it's like, what is the goal of the song? What is the demographic of the song? What's the vibe of the song? And then figuring out, all right, how are we going to hit that demographic?
Right.
Yeah. So you can have no budget, and you can have like a friend shoot a video on a phone. I mean, I actually just seen a video that I shot on an iPhone that looked pretty damn professional, and you couldn't even tell. But just the concept alone like drove it and made it, have traction.
Sure. I mean, I even know too, a lot of times with artists that we see, it's like if stuff is overproduced, even for like recap videos, sometimes a raw clip from a performance showing a hype moment of a song with good crowd energy will vastly outperform a super polished and well-produced recap video. Just because it has this more like raw, authentic feel, and people don't want to ever feel like they're being marketed to. And the more production you put, sometimes you're making a trade-off for authenticity.
Do you think that branding for the artist also has to do with how much you want it to look well produced or not as well produced? For example, like, I'll just name some artists off the top of my head. Like Kendrick Lamar, for example, I feel like when he puts videos out, like people expect like quality videos, music, just because he's kind of put his career on the line and his brand on the line for that. When we hear his albums, it's like art. You know what I'm saying? But
totally.
Tyler, the Creator, for example, we obviously expect quality from him too, but he had a whole TV show that looked like it was shot from a camcorder.
I mean, even Doja Cat,
so it's just a little bit different.
Doja Cat had that video that made her go viral about the cows.
Yeah.
And it was just like shot on like a green screen and just a bunch of like meme kind of content in the background.
Right.
And that shit blew her up. So I think it's definitely timing, and then it's like the concept. If you have the right concept behind a video, I think, and of course the right PR and the right connections to get people to see it, that would definitely help. That's more important than a large scale budget nowadays.
Yeah, right. I think with the clients that I work with, we're getting every day a lot more strict with how we spend the money, because it's just so easy to shoot content now with a good concept. We've even shot like sort of, I don't want to say upscale, but we even shot like a kind of expensive video and then purposefully made it look like it wasn't that expensive. Just because that's
shit.
Yeah,
when you shoot on like a red camera and then you like make it for IGTV or IG stories, and it's like, wait a second,
right.
Spent a lot of money on that camera, but
you learn from it,
Yeah, you definitely learn from it.
Yeah.
And it allows more flexibility. The most important thing when you're shooting like a red or like these big cameras, it's like you can zoom in, you can fix things in post that you might not like, or the artist might not like. And that's probably the biggest value of shooting like a 8K kind of camera that shoots like this massive size. That's just over
What do you
top.
think is like the sweet spot for artists? Like, that they can go out to the store and get on a fairly like okay budget, or fairly like, medium-sized budget, and then still create great content? Like what's...
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that. They're always looking for the best like DSLR camera.
Right.
The best like cinema camera. I
know people that just look for the most expensive.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It's like, this is $6,000.
I don't think that
it must be good.
Yeah, the camera is not the most important thing. I don't think. I think you can get the newest iPhone and you could save some money, and you can invest in things like lighting and like pick up some Philips Hue bulbs and put them in the studio and like just start shooting shit in the studio. I think that's like, that'll produce some great content just starting there. And then obviously as you scale up and you get a videographer, then you want to have something a little more serious. I think the Sony A7 III is a solid DSLR camera. It shoots great video, great photo, and I think it's like the middle range of cameras. It's a step up from like the iPhone 11.
But it's about like 3K.
Yeah, 3K, 4,000 after you get like lenses, and that's like the industry standard for a camera. I mean, when I first started, it was like the Canon 5D Mark III, and that shit is still around, and that's like a 10-year-old camera that's people are still shooting on. So I think the Sony A7 III is the new industry standard.
You brought up iPhones. Are there any like good apps or anything people on small budgets should look for if they're trying to shoot a video or any side content?
Adobe, they have their Premiere iPhone edition. I think it's called Premiere Rush. That's pretty good. There's another app called Splice. Splice is pretty solid. I think they're both free or on the cheaper end. when it comes to like photo, obviously Visco is like one of the best. They just have all the filters.
I got Visco, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say even then, like the concept of a photo, like think about, composition, think about like what's in the background, where are you when in that photo, who's in the photo with you, like that is also like you could just post an organic, like no filtered photo, and like that the concept is still the priority over like what tools are you using to shoot it or what tools are you using to edit it. I think that comes first.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
So when it comes to style and artists developing a unique style, can you talk about like a process you'd recommend artists go through in order to identify their style and ways that they can be intentional about having some level of consistency across all the content they create?
Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's a first-time artist who's like just starting off, I think it's good to look to other artists and sort of reference what they're doing. Obviously, not like copying them. I mean, what we do is like at NOX is we pull together like a mood board of just different photography, different videos, different colors that we like, and pulling that in together into like 1 or 2 pages. I think that's important. And then really making sure that like all your content that you're shooting and creating looks to this par that you're setting it out to be. I mean, some people only shoot at night. They want like this certain like darker vibe, so that's like important to them. Some people shoot only the daytime because they are more of like a pop artist or they have a brighter sound. So you want that even to like come into your content. Mood boards are definitely important. Having just a general sense of like what kind of typography you're going to use, what kind of colors, and making sure that stays consistent. Whether it's like stage visuals or content or like print content or print ads or whatever it may be, like keeping it all consistent is like super important for a brand, and making sure that like if you hire a designer that they're using the same kind of fonts and same kind of colors. Yeah, I would say referencing other artists is important, super important to like no idea is original. It's obvious, like I mean, you can always change it up a little bit and make it original, but like you got to start from some kind of reference.
Influences.
Yeah, from some kind of influence.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at The Weeknd, people compare him to Michael Jackson or,
He had a Dirty Diana remix.
Exactly. So I think every artist can appreciate other artists' originality and evolve from that.
That's awesome. I think one other thing too, I mean, I love how we, for a lot of artists too, will create the like flyer. I mean, because you have the level of consistency across your own channels, but then thinking about consistency across other people's channels too is valuable. So for like a lot of the artists will create like artwork templates where they're then giving templates for upcoming shows to promoters to localize. So that way there's this level of like consistency.
We do that with we do that with ad mats too for tour posters with our artists. We come out with the tour poster ourselves and then we send the tour poster without any dates on it, send them the font, anything that they may need so they can that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So they can, keep it on brand.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Super valuable. I think artists should consider that, especially as they get more leverage with promoters. Totally. I think early on might not be an option, but never hurts to try. So when we're thinking about like types of content, I know a lot of times people default to just, we just got to come up with this big music video. And sure, that's awesome. But then it's like, if you're not posting for like 2 months while your head's down working on music in this music video, you're going to release the music and music video to crickets 99 times out of 100. Whereas on the flip side, the value of being consistent on socials creates this foundational fan base, this community that acts as the springboard for all those releases. Can you talk about what are some, I mean, I know at NOX we refer to them as like content streams, but can you talk about different buckets of content that you think all artists should consider?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the most important thing is like documenting. I know we learned a lot of this from Gary V, but like documenting what you're doing. Like if you're in the studio, get out a camera, get out your iPhone, like just start creating content right there. That's the easiest way. If you have a show, obviously that's like a big moment. You want to like, if you have a friend who has a camera, have him shoot it. If you're just starting out, if you can afford to have a videographer, get a videographer to capture those moments. Obviously any kind of tours are super important to capture and like you see them, like you can tell when an artist on tour, they're just posting like every day. And then they go into this like phase where they're just like in the studio and they stop posting. Like why stop posting? You know, it's like keep capturing that content because your community wants to see that. So definitely studio stuff, behind the scenes. I mean, what makes you different from other artists? Like, are you doing like special meditations? Are you doing like workouts? Like, what kind of vocal training are you doing? Like that kind of stuff is really aspiring to your community and people.
Yeah, I think that's a line that at least some of my clients have had to walk as best as they could in terms of making yourself vulnerable to the public and being vulnerable in order to attract engagement, and then, you know, making yourself feel insecure or like you're revealing some part of your story that you don't want people to know about, or you're letting people into the creative process when that's like really personal to you. So at least the way I interpret that is like figuring out what you're willing to give up to people in order to inspire engagement. Because I have a few clients right now. They're like, I'm not gonna talk to people about how I make music. Like I can't. I can't right now. You know.
I mean, then you have people like Frank Ocean who like never post on social media. Or
yeah, well, like, he used to. He came out on Tumblr. He used to post on Tumblr. He disappeared for a little bit. You know, barely anybody lives in a vacuum now. Mm-hmm. You know, I think those people that generally don't post too much, I feel like at some point they did, and that's why they can do that.
Sort you know what I mean? Too much, yeah.
Right. People got to know them, and then they took a step back. So now people want more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why every time he releases an album or something,
yeah, man. Up. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So when people are thinking about content, what are things people should keep in mind or tactics to create engaging, high-performing content?
Something that you like every time you create something, it's like, we got to make sure
I mean,
these markers.
The most important thing right now in this, I mean, obviously social media is always changing, and, you know, this might be outdated in like a month, but right now is like the first 3 seconds, first 5 seconds. What are you doing in that video that's going to capture the eye of somebody who's scrolling Instagram or TikTok? It's got to be captivating. You have to like really catch the eye of someone. And then after those 3 seconds, it's like, all right, what's the rest of the story that you're telling in this clip or in this? I mean, photos are a little bit tougher, but in this video clip, like, what are you telling in the middle part that can then keep people around? Whether it's a dope recap video, it's got a lot of high energy. The beats, like the cut is going to the beat. And then obviously the ending, you just need a solid closeout. And that's like, that makes as far as like video concepts and editing, it's like, all right, the first 3 seconds are priority, and then like keep people around, and then close it out solidly.
Cool.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I thought you answered my question. I'm already thinking of ways that I can make my artists specifically
Jordan,
shoulder content.
What
like
about your content?
What
are you posting content?
Oh, me? I need to get better at it for real. I need to do that. I
mean, you guys are doing this podcast, so that's a good start already.
Music Business Podcast is posting content. Shout out to Noah.
Shout out.
My man Noah. Killing it. What do you do to prepare to work with an artist in terms of like capturing their brand in a genuine way on film? You like go back and look at their previous content, you interview them, what type of stuff you do?
So I guess it's different for each artist, but the best thing to sometimes do is just talk to the artist and see like, what do they feel? If you have the access to them, like, what are they feeling? If it's a music video, like, do they have ideas about the video or just certain things that they want to touch on within the video, and then start there. If it's if you're just like coming up with a concept out of the blue, it's like, all right, what if you were the artist and you were like coming up with a concept for this song or for this video, what would it be about, you know? And then just like trying to keep it original. And what was the question again?
Like, how do you prepare to work with an artist and their brand before, and portraying that accurately on camera?
Mm-hmm. Definitely looking at their past content, seeing what they've been doing, what they like doing, and then like I said, like talking to them specifically and like seeing like, do they have a vision for this content they want to create specifically, or can we just run free and see what's trending, or
Which one would you prefer? Somebody to be like, yo, do whatever you want, bro. Or somebody to have...
Sometimes I'd rather have the artist who's like, all right, I want this. And like, you can like, these are the parameters that I want. So like, it's got to be shot outside in LA in the daytime. And then you can just get creative for the rest, you know? But if they just give you like run wild, then sometimes they come back and they're like, well, this wasn't my vision. And then you're like, shit, like maybe you should have told me your vision beforehand. But I mean, it's always a good learning experience.
Right.
It's always good.
You talk about how, just given your experience, us being in that situation a lot of times where sometimes the vision is a mystery, but I think overall we have gotten a lot better at streamlining the workflow to cut down on those miscommunications. So that way our time isn't spent making revisions, but instead we're just able to consistently dial in on exactly what the vision is and crank out more content. Can you talk about advice that you have or things that you've learned in your experience with working with creatives and working with artists that could be helpful for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, stay positive. That's like, it's so like you guys, the goal of the artist and the goal of you is always to create the best content you can create. So if there is a miscommunication within an artist and you or as a marketer or anybody, it's like, all right, how can, like, let's move past that. How can we solve the issue, the problem? And then just try and like communicate as much as possible. So like, all right, if they have a vision, get it out in writing, send it over to them, come back, like it's approved, then let's move, instead of like moving first and shooting the content and then getting all this content or a photo shoot and then coming back and be like, all right, now we have to fix it, because then that's just going to cause everyone a headache and causes more money, and no one likes that. That summarizes it.
Yeah.
So
Sam, you can obviously answer this as well, but like, you know, how do you guys approach people? How do you choose your clients? How do you keep your clients happy? What are some things that you do? You know, especially if you're a videographer right now. I get emails every day from people that want to make videos for my clients or shoot, you know, content for my clients. What are some things that you guys do in order to, you know, to turn some of those leads into actual clients, and how you keep them happy?
Yeah.
He like, bro, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay.
I mean, we're in the holiday time, so it's like,
is kind of the person that spearheads a lot of the business development stuff. I think, a lot of it's doing great work for our existing clients.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we can turn those guys into case studies, build credibility, get referrals.
Right.
When it comes to keeping clients happy, I mean, create impact and value, high touch account management. I think, like you can be the smartest marketer in the world and create amazing content, but if you don't have efficient and effective communication with the client, you're not showing progress, you're not showing updates, you're not showing that you're trying and testing new things and being proactive. Yeah, it's all for naught. And then on the flip side too, it's like people will have great ideas, but if they don't actually get the buy-in from their clients or from the teams that they're working with, that can also just make it impossible to drive results. I think. I guess do great work. I mean, Matt helps oversee a lot of the content production side. So it's getting people excited about the content. And then ultimately too, it's like making sure that we're really focused not only on our clients, but on their fans. Cause those are the people that we're really trying to engage, make happy, and build audiences around.
Another way is just getting out there and networking. I think some of the best clients that we've gotten, or the easiest clients we've gotten, is through word of mouth. I mean, I think in this industry is in the music industry specifically, once you get out there and start getting into different groups of the music industry, I think we go to events and we just see people that we know through other people, and it's you just start building that network, and that's super important to getting new clients. I mean, that's big.
Staying top of mind, engaging.
Right. Dope.
Sending them Christmas cards or holiday cards.
You do that?
Hanukkah cards. We gotta send it out today.
Gotta finish it right after this episode.
Damn. That's tight.
Happy holidays.
The personal touch, bro.
Yeah, man. I might get one.
There
Dude,
it is.
Shoot me one, bro.
Oh shit!
Maybe.
I just spoiled it.
I mean, we were gonna give you one, but now that you asked, no,
we gonna rip it up. We gonna rip it up.
That shit was already written, but Oh man.
And y'all both can ask this one too. At what point do you think it makes sense for an artist to have a regular videographer? Like how early in their career?
Go ahead, bro.
I mean, if they're the first tour, I think is like a good point.
Headlining tour, opening tour.
I guess the real answer is like when they can start affording it. Like
Yeah.
if you start profiting as an artist and you're making some good money and you want to reinvest into the company, into your brand as an artist, I think that's a pretty big step, a pretty big role to fill in the artist team. I mean, what we're seeing now is like TMs, tour managers, and videographers or photographers.
Yeah, I've
which
had
is
one of those before.
super. I mean, that's an interesting space if you can get somebody who can tour manage and shoot content for you. I mean, you kill. I don't want to say kill two birds with one stone.
It seems impossible. If you're doing either one well, it requires a lot of fucking undivided attention and focus.
I mean, no, it kind of depends. Like I hire tour managers who also do front of house.
Yeah.
So like, you could say the same thing about that. How they gonna mix and master the record live?
Yeah, that's true.
And TM live at the same time. It's because once the show starts, relatively, at least from my experience, there's not too much for the TM to do unless something goes wrong.
Unless the sound goes wrong. And then if the sound goes wrong, it's their fault.
Yeah, unless the sound goes wrong. That could be one. But like, it's a similar thing with the videography. If you've primed somebody beforehand, if you have a front of house person that you trust, then at that point the TM is just, waiting for stuff to go wrong. Well, while that happens, they can shoot some content, I do think like videographers that are dedicated to it are going to be, in and out of the crowd, on the side of the stage. And that could get in the way of something that a TM might have to do. But, we had a whole recap made for one of our clients from the TM, from two artists. Yeah. So it can happen.
I think that's like a new role that's going to be, especially for artists who are opening up for tours.
Yeah.
It's not as big of a deal if something goes wrong.
Or the setup is just a lot smaller.
It's just
if you're
smaller,
opening.
yeah. It's not a large band.
I think once you get to a certain point, though, it may not make sense to do
and it's
that.
just not a good look either.
Yeah,
like you don't want to have like your TM like also running around with the camera. That's just
right.
You gotta have somebody like to go to.
To answer your question though, is when it's the right time to hire. I mean, I think as early as possible. Kind of per Matt's point, I think a lot of the music game right now is how you can build an audience online and get those people to listen to your music. And I think building the audience a lot of times is through this actual content that can be used to help showcase your personality and gain followers and attention across social media. And then those people become listeners. I think even you look at somebody like The Baby, who's had this like...
I was about to say, his videographer is doing well.
He's had
his videographer is crushing it.
Major ascent this year in 2019. But if you really look into it, like he's had this team that's been cranking out content in tandem with him. I think we've seen a very similar thing happen with Black Coffee, where over the course of the past 3 years, he's gone from being this like underground house act to becoming a headliner at like major festivals, selling out hard ticket shows in major venues around the world. I think and even when Lionel came on and he was talking about it, it was making this investment into content. I feel like that's how you can like really accelerate the growth and trajectory of your career, because what is the foundation of your artist career? Fans. What's one of the best ways to acquire fans? Create content so you can get in front of people via social media, because that's where all the attention is. So I think even in our experience too, sometimes it's like we're working with artists that have a lot of budget and they're already generating a lot of revenue and profit around their career. On the other side, we have artists that are like, they have a unique team around them already. Maybe it's a financier or something. Yeah. And they consider this to be a smart investment, because if they really want to go all in and try and help break this artist, an essential piece of that equation is the social content side.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think? My bad.
Yeah. What do I think?
Yeah.
I think the earlier the better. I think the quicker that people can get to know you specifically, I think the better. Even if it's coming from an iPhone, Yeah. I don't necessarily think a videographer is necessary, even if you have a homie that can do it from the beginning. I think that's like a way to get the content out.
I think artists too that are like super early neglect creating their own content. And I think at those earliest stages of your career, like I don't want to say it definitely shouldn't necessarily be the majority of your time, but like you should make sure you're allocating time on either a daily or weekly basis towards creating content. You should be posting multiple times per week across all priority platforms.
Yep.
Yeah, man. And the artists are getting good at it too.
Dude, I'm a shout out my homies Fly By Midnight. They shoot their own videos, they edit their own videos, they record their own music. Like those two guys, I know I always bring them up with Sam, but like they are literally doing it all themselves, and like they're just committed to it. So if you could find the time to like create your own content, create your own music, or if they could find the time, then anybody could find the time because they're doing a lot of shit at the same time. So,
right. They're creating everything and creating the music.
Yeah, which is amazing. And also to just finish off this point, but like think about the documentary that you'll have, like the baby. He doesn't have a documentary yet, does he?
He could though.
Yeah.
He could.
But think about
so much
all
content,
this content, like as he's building
way.
from the start, like that documentary on Netflix is gonna be fucking huge because like all this like exclusive content that hasn't been pushed out because maybe he is getting too vulnerable and like he doesn't want to put it out for his image, but like that shit's gonna be, that investment of money into that video content will pay off in the end.
I mean, partially it already has. Did you guys see him? He had to miss a show in his hometown and then he actually performed over FaceTime.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think anything could happen like that unless his fans already felt very close to him. And I think a lot of that happened through social media and just, connecting with fans on a real level across the board.
Did they get a refund or they just...
Yo, they showed up. They were literally in.
No refunds.
He's like, I ain't giving no refund. I'm gonna just FaceTime these motherfuckers.
I'm gonna still get the bag.
That was a business decision.
Nah, I think he did because he said he was gonna have another show.
Yeah.
So I actually don't think it was a refund. I think it's like we're just gonna have another show.
New date.
Yeah, new date. Cool. Yeah. What do you think are like the most important moments to capture? Like if you had to be like, yo, you had this.
I mean, any big collaborations. I think it's like when it's the first time you're going to a studio with someone who's maybe a little bit bigger than you, it's a little bit intimidating to like have a camera around. But like any way that you can like capture that moment is huge because then when the song comes out, you have this content from the studio that like is all this behind the scenes content that you can release with the song. I'll wait till the horn stops.
New York City, man.
Right here.
New York City.
We're in New York City.
Typically we roll, but since Matt's got the ear for production, Matt don't talk over the horn.
Yeah.
He like, that'll be bad to mix later.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously tours, your first tour, I mean, big headline tours, that's like big moments. You should be capturing every single day of that. I think we said pretty much the biggest parts, like studio tours, behind the scene moments. Am I missing anything?
I mean, challenging parts of a person's life, like
vulnerability.
Yeah, the vulnerable moments. I think just the general like interests outside of music, like lean into the person and their personality beyond just themselves as a musician.
And give like a whole picture of the person.
And then I think that the last thing too is like create the moment. Like so much of what we do is like, okay, we've got 2 hours of time with this artist. What are all the ideas we can do? I mean, one of the artists that we work a lot with, Mime, who's got a little bit more time flexibility, even though he's in an earlier stage of his career. We had a show at Webster Hall in New York a couple weeks ago, and we literally just created this big list of different skits and then literally spent 6 hours ahead of the show just running around town trying to capture and crank out all these different skits.
Right.
Some of these skits were timely trends on TikTok. Other things were just funny things we felt we could pull off given that he's a mime and wears a mime mask.
Right.
So I think, look at all those moments, but beyond that too, just like be creative and create the moment, come up with your own concepts.
And show your personality. I mean, if you're a quiet person, you have different ways of showing that, but like Mime is a funny dude who just like likes to do random shit behind the mask. And I think that's like, we really like push on that and try and like push it to the max.
Right.
Yeah. Especially on TikTok. I mean, we could do a whole fucking episode on TikTok currently in its state, but like that shit, if you're not on TikTok, I know it's weird right now with all the little kids and like the cringe moments, but like as an artist, I think you got to get on TikTok. That's like number one takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
A big one. It's a big one. I got some more questions, but Sam, I'm gonna see if you It's funny because I'm interviewing you, but y'all are partners. So
I mean, that's
it's
it.
Like they kind of, you both can kind of answer. It's kind of like how me and Ramya were on at the same time. You know. What do you guys think is unique about like NOX culture?
Let you go first as the guest.
Sam and I developed something, the 3 Ps of NOX.
The 3 Ps.
3 Ps.
I don't know the order.
Paper.
No, listen, do not. That's not true. It's not all about the money. It's not all about the money. All right. I mean, that pays the bills, but like, I think in no specific order, it's positivity, productivity,
and paper. No,
and paper. No. And
he like don't
positivity,
forget that, bro.
productivity, and proactivity. All right. So it's like all right, how do we keep a positive mindset through the ups and downs? That's like big. How do we be as productive? Like, work smart, not hard. I think that's the line.
Smarter, not harder.
Work smarter, not harder. That's big for us.
Yeah, pulling up the culture doc, because we've actually kind of memorialized like a handful of different values internally. But I think building upon what Matt was saying, I think we were really touched by it. Like, we worked with some really cool people like Cy Wakeman, Ray Dalio,
shout out Cy Wakeman,
Tom Billiou.
Yeah,
so these are a couple of like titans in industry. Like Ray Dalio literally founded the world's biggest hedge funds.
Yeah,
net worth $16 billion. Got the chance to work with him while at Vayner, helping him launch the book Principles. One of his cornerstone, like foundational values, is this notion of radical transparency.
Yep.
And being radically open-minded. So the way, and also too, for you guys listening to this podcast, he recently, he's friends with Diddy, and Diddy, there's an interview that just published. It's about 20 minutes long, where Diddy is actually interviewing Ray Dalio.
Yeah, I saw that. It came up on my YouTube.
He's his mentor. And one of the things Ray kind of leads off with, which goes back to this like radically open-minded, radical transparency, is this notion of being radically open-minded is having a belief, believing your belief, but being very open to the fact that other perspectives may be more valuable and that you could be wrong.
Right.
And I think it's easy for us to default and have egos come in the way, where if there is some sort of negative feedback, you try and be defensive. You try and stand your ground, protect your position, rather than this notion of radical open-mindedness and welcoming in feedback. Because I think to the extent, like, you're doing somebody a disservice by not giving them productive, valuable feedback. And a lot of times people are either holding back on that feedback, or they are delivering that feedback and it's just not being received well. So I think internally at NOX, we've done a really good job at like making that a foundational element of our culture, where we're all very receptive to productive feedback. We can literally call each other out. We do it in a way.
In a positive.
We do it in a positive way. One of the
you can't just be like, "Oh, you're fucking up," like, because then that ruins people's morale and shit. So
right.
You got to be like, "All right, this is what you did good, but like, this is where we can improve." And I think that's important as a leader.
Yeah,
right.
In the culture doc, it's we should be openly receptive to productive feedback and use it as an opportunity to grow and leave our egos at the door. When sharing constructive feedback, seek first to empathize and always look to frame and drive feedback from a place of care, growth, and positivity. Yeah, and that largely came out of my ass, just being like, "Yo, why you fucking up, fam?" No.
Yeah, and I was like, I would DM Sam like, "Yo, you gotta chill, bro," because that shit, and especially when it comes through like email, like you can't tell people's, and it's not
you
just
talking
Sam,
about contractors or something like that.
No, I mean, yeah, just people on our team. And not even that, but sometimes if you're just snappy with your feedback and you're not really making it, you're not being overtly coming from this place of care and empathy, then it can just sound like you're nagging people. But I think it's a fine line, because at the end of the day, I mean, we want to uplift people and inspire people. But at the same time too, we don't want to like water everything down. So I think we are in a place in our company where we've been able to really internalize that well. And I think within teams too, it's like, if a lot of the times teams break apart or things don't work, is because these concerns bubble up and it gets to a point where they erupt and explode. So I think if there's not a fit at a time, like, that's okay, but I'd much rather make sure that we've been very transparent about those concerns, working to address them before letting it kind of bubble up and get out of control.
Right. Cool.
And I'm sure within the music industry, there's a shit ton of that, like egos. I mean, drama. Like, what's some kind of stuff you've seen like between managers and shit? You don't have to mention names, but
I think just the thing that I value is being honest in a way that doesn't detract from people's morale, like you guys are saying.
Yeah.
At least from what I've seen in the music industry, not necessarily at places where I've worked, but places I've seen.
Yeah.
Maybe companies we work with or companies my friends work at, where the ego will drive it'll drive the criticism as opposed to empathy or compassion. So I've heard of people throwing shit at other people when they, didn't do the work that they wanted, or question if they're even right for this career when they didn't do the work that they wanted. And I've had some big fuck ups too. Everybody does, but I do think a leader is somebody who takes those fuck ups and then turns them into something productive.
It's a learning experience.
Exactly. And that's why the concept of like fucking up to me isn't even, a horrible thing. Cause it's like people got to do it,
Yep.
And, luckily at the position that I've been in, at the companies that I've been in, those fuck ups or those failures have been treated with respect even, It's like you messed up because you're overambitious, or you messed up because, you may not have been thinking too much at this time, but why is that? Let's figure that out. Let's problem solve that together and then grow together, And not only that, but I think if you detract from people's morale when you give them criticism, you're not thinking about the overall goal of the company, which is to be successful,
for sure.
So
exactly.
So I'm gonna ask you a question.
Shit.
I was trying to deflect. What's it like working with Sam?
I mean, it's been a year and a half. At NOX,
we worked at Vayner before.
It's been like a solid 3 years working together. I think even at Vayner,
you could say he's a piece of shit.
All right, I won't look at him when I'm saying that.
That's how you feel.
I work with him too, bro.
Listen, you're going after it. We'll talk some shit up.
I can't wait till that video comes out of you just clapping at the.
Just making a boomerang.
Yeah, right. Micro content.
Every partnership has good and bads. I mean, it's like getting into a relationship with someone when you're starting a business with someone. I think for the most part, we've been civil. We've been like able to communicate openly, like Sam has said. It's been pretty good. I don't think we haven't had maybe a couple heated arguments, but it's only driven by passion. And I think we both have the same passion to do the best work that we can do. And of course, make a little bit of money while doing that. But I think it's a good dynamic. Every time we tell someone, it's like Sam runs strategy, I run creative. I mean, it's just a good mix of all right, he leads clients when it comes to what do they need? What's the goal of the client? And then I lead the creative side of the content. And that's really what I love to do. And I think Sam, obviously I know Sam loves to really think high level and all right, what's the best way to create this content and do this kind of stuff? And I'm just there all right, what's the best kind of TikTok video we can create or best kind of music video we can create? So I think it's a good mix and it's been working well. And I think it'll work well for years to come and hopefully.
Oh.
Yeah. Although I am moving to LA, so we're breaking up a little. No, I'm kidding.
We're going to be in a long distance relationship.
That's always, we're going long distance now. So we'll see how it works. We'll do another update in 2020. What about you, Jordan? How's it been working with Sam as a co-host?
Oh, it's my turn now. No, Sam is very creative, and the thing I like the most about Sam is he's a hustler. So I'm sure you have the same experience with him. I think Sam pushes me in a lot of different ways to be a better host, to think of the Music Business Podcast not just as a community but also as a business. Something that could eventually grow into something larger than ourselves. So
for sure.
That's my experience with Sam.
You got any sponsors?
Fuck with you, Sam.
Oh, thanks.
I fuck with you, man.
And so what do I think about Sam?
Gets on a mirror.
My Kanye moment. Sam is the dopest motherfucker. No, I'm playing it. No.
Who's the best leader ever? Sam. And Sam.
No. I'm just learning.
Dope. Well.
All right, hot takes. This is our favorite segment of the show.
Bringing it back.
Yeah. So these tend to actually be lukewarm takes. You
can't say that from the beginning.
Wait. Retake.
No. All right, these are room temp takes.
Oh my God. Hot takes. Copyrighted.
They're essentially things that we hear, rumors, she said, things in the industry.
That we may or may not believe. I'm turning it hot again. We may or may not believe
hot
this.
or not.
Yeah.
Right.
But we want to get your perspective.
But don't assume we don't believe this, because we may.
I'm so confused. Do you guys believe this or not?
DaBaby's got the best content team.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No.
Listen, how many times have you mentioned DaBaby on this podcast? Do a ticker. Do a ticker on a video DaBaby 1, 2, 3.
All right.
He used to come into the podcast.
Honestly,
content efforts, are they hot or not?
Definitely hot. They got him to where he is. But honestly, I don't really know who his videographer is. So I guess I got to
Real goats, bro.
I guess I gotta dig in more.
Real spelled with REEL. Clever ass name for a production.
Oh, that's
company.
the name? That's actually kind of hard.
That's real.
Well, they're killing it, so they ought to go.
Real hard. Sorry. Video content is frequently overproduced and not worth the budgets that videographers often demand.
All right. As a videographer, this is tough because this is like what has paid my bills. And like, I don't want to say that like cheap content is good content. So I'm going to say it's true and false, or hot or not, or hot take, whatever the fuck you want to say. I think there's a place and a time to put money into a music video or a documentary kind of series. And then there's a time and place where you could just like create some viral content on TikTok. And it just stems to like the concept of what you're trying to do. I mean, if you're trying to like create a green screen animated, like wild ass video and you do it for like a couple $1,000s, I would love to see it because I'm curious how good or bad it is. But I think you just got to be realistic with your budgets. Like, if you have a fire concept and like you don't need a crazy camera and a crazy like production value to get shit done, I think you can still go viral, or you can still create like some moving content with an iPhone camera.
Right.
But then sometimes people are like too caught up on the price of the camera and they don't even think about like what they're doing on video. So I think it's like, it comes back to like the concept, like come up with the concept first, have an idea of a budget, and then shoot with that budget in mind, and like obviously change your concept a little bit if you don't have a big budget. But does that answer my hot take? Is that what a hot take?
Nah, that's what it is. All right. Videographers generally don't focus enough on the artist brand when creating video content.
Damn, now you guys are just dissing us, huh?
That's the whole point. It's hot as shit. It's piping hot take.
I don't know. This one's tough.
We coming for the jugular. That's what we do on the music business podcast. We take risks.
Videographers don't focus enough on the artist concept.
Artist brand when creating video content.
I mean, it's definitely important. I think you can tell the artists who have their videographers who work with them over a certain amount of years, months. They learn who they are as a person. They like grow with them, which is probably why the real GOATs working with DaBaby. They understand him. They know what he wants before he even wants it, or they just shoot stuff and he loves it. But it's definitely, I give you, for the first time you work with an artist, like do your research, do like know who you're working with, like watch up some interviews, look at what kind of content they're creating. If you're going to work with a pop artist, like you're not going to create a hip hop kind of video, because then it's just off brand for them.
Do you think videographers that you've dealt with outside of NOX, obviously, don't focus enough on the artist brand?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back. If there's like a free videographer who's doing shit for free, sometimes they'll just like take the same thing that they did for another artist and copy and paste it. Like the same kind of recap video. Like there's no originality and there's no creativity. It's just like, they just want to get it done just to say that they did it and like have that on their portfolio. But I also don't want to diss my videographers. I mean, that's where
it's the community. It's community of videographers.
That's where I grew up.
Nah,
that's
man.
The voice of the community.
I'm the voice of the community.
You can, I'm the voice. The voice. You can,
I wish.
But anyway, I'm done prodding you. I tried, but
videographers, blah blah blah.
In my experience with videographers,
yeah, I'm curious.
The emails that I get, the people that reach out, most of the time, really don't necessarily. Obviously, outside of NOX, I'm not just saying that. I think you guys do this, but they don't necessarily know what they have in mind for the artist when they reach out.
Yeah,
it's more so like, y'all got money, we got cameras. What can
how can we work? Right?
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that if somebody comes to the table, like I've seen what this content looks like in the past.
Yeah.
Here's how you guys can improve it. I think that would just blow me away.
Yeah.
And not many people do that, but that would literally blow me away.
Sort of,
you know what I mean?
Find areas where the artist isn't doing
right. I get so many emails of packages where you go on the website and then you just pay for a package and then videographers show up. You know what I mean?
That's yeah.
And that's obviously a hustle. I'm not knocking that hustle. People get paid like that all the time, but I do think the more strategic you can be about any of your content, the better. So if somebody comes in to that experience already with some sort of strategy on this is what we've seen so far, this is how we can make you better.
Game over.
Take all the money. Yeah, take all my money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
what's your hot take on like free videographers? Have you
Free
got any?
videographers?
Have anybody offered free work? I know
yeah,
that's like
they offer free work, but we got to see the work that they've done in the past. You know, we've had free videographers that started off free and then we paid them. But I think that's generally how it goes. I think when people reach out and they say free, it means free this time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
you're doing free work multiple times and
right, and we know that. We know that. It's worked out well sometimes. It hasn't other times. Sometimes people just want to do it to expand their portfolio. And at that point, it's a true value exchange. It's like, yeah, you can shoot for free if you want to put this on your website. We'll let you put it on your website. So in that situation, I'm not like too worried because they're going to want to kill it for themselves. Yeah. So they obviously have a lot of motivation because this is what's going to represent them. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And there's also another type of videographer that just wants to help with the artist specifically. They're like, I just want to help. Just let me do what I can do. Like I'll help. That can be okay too. But like I said, it depends. At least in my opinion, it depends on why they want to do it and why they'll do it for free. You know, so
you don't want to fanboy, just fucking run your artists.
Right,
that's not good either.
Right, like if you're reaching out and you want to shoot with your iPhone for free, that's a little different than like if you're a videographer and want to put something in your portfolio or you want to be a part of the team and use this as a trial period. You know what I'm saying?
One of the dopest videos you've ever done, that Tomorrowland recap for Black Coffee, came from this dude Nick Sanders that shot it for free.
Was he shooting for the festival already or no?
I think he was just trying to finesse his way to get the festival pass, but he did a great job shooting.
I mean, I have mixed feelings on free work.
I mean, generally, I mean, I think you alluded to this in when you were talking about like how a lot of time, I mean, even the root of this is like videographers don't generally focus enough on the artist brand when creating content. I think there's a difference between like a one-off videographer versus like an ongoing content effort. And I think if you're already talking about somebody that's like free, that per your point, it's going to be this like one-off content shoot. And if you're already from off the bat just thinking about like what's a one-off videographer here or there, it likely isn't laddering back into this like very cohesive strategy where you're really trying to like push forward this narrative around an artist. So I think at the foundation, like filling the strategy, and even for us, some of the artists we work with are like touring a lot. So maybe it doesn't make sense to pay to fly out the videographer. Maybe we just hire somebody locally rather than spend.
But I also think that hiring somebody locally is still coming from the brain that is NOX. You know what I mean?
Right. No, but so I think that I'm saying that's valuable if it does ladder back to a strategy.
Right.
I'm advocating for that approach from a certain extent.
Right.
Where I'd say it doesn't work when you're just tapping local videographers is if it's not coming back from a strategy. Like if we're working with
especially
a local
if it's free.
Yeah.
Especially if it's free, you know.
And even then too, it's like you got like we're developing briefs. We have a very clear run of shows. You were mentioning too, some people just don't even know what they want to create. It's like for us, it's like every time we're going into a shoot, we already have a very clear idea of exactly what we're looking to capture and create coming out of that shoot. And I think all videographers should be thinking of that every shoot.
Pre-production.
Yeah.
Pre-production's
run
like
shows
big.
for days.
Research, run of shows, concepts, treatments, all that stuff. It's important. Yeah. And aligning with the client is, once you get that, align with the client too. That's big.
Yeah.
So that you're
beautiful moment.
That's it.
Beautiful moment. Cool. Well,
dope. Matt,
thanks for coming out, man.
Great to work with you. Great to have you on the podcast, man. Let's get it.
How do people get to NOX? Where they go?
We are nox.co. Or just hit us up on the email. contact@wearenox.co.
Bang, bang.
Or just follow us on Instagram. Matthew Ligotti.
Or just email paper.
Yeah.
to contact at wearenox.co.
We got the Instagram.
5 seconds.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Peace.
Man, I was into that, bro.
Yeah,
I know
obviously
some of the questions that I asked him, you both could kind of answer since you both are partners, but you know, at some point I kind of just took lead on the questions because I was getting so into his creative mindset in terms of just videography in general. You know, one of my clients is a YouTube series right now where we're trying to figure out ways to keep people engaged. And even just what he said about every video, first 3 seconds, keeping people engaged, having a solid middle to bridge the gap between the beginning and the end, and then having the end really close it out strong. You know, I literally was thinking of ways to do that with this YouTube series I'm talking about right now. Like while we were listening to him talk about that. So definitely very informative for me.
Yeah, for sure. No, loved it a lot. Obviously get to work with him super closely. So really cool to hear him talk about his approach to more at a deeper level. I think for you guys listening, like, take note, even if you can't afford a videographer or a team, like, doesn't mean you can't create content. You could get nimble. I mean, the cost of producing content has gone down drastically. You can reach people by posting online via social media. If you're being creative around the type of content you're creating, proactively engaging on other people's content, you could get in front of new people, build fans, and that can literally be the foundation to a successful and sustainable career. So content matters. Hope you were able to walk away with some pretty tactical ways in which you can better execute upon a content strategy for you, your business, your artist. And with that said, we appreciate y'all. Don't hesitate to leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast, and we will be back
in the new year, baby.
There it is.
Let's do it. 2020.
Thank y'all so much. Happy holidays.